Kingdom Hearts 3 has been all over the news for months now, from delays to 245 different trailers debuting every other day. There have been a multitude of different demos and preview builds at various events going all the way back to May. I remember reading a few articles from people who went hands-on earlier in the year and they were all incredibly positive. But you would expect that, especially from the very first group of lucky people who got to play it. Electricity is in the air, the atmosphere is full of hype, everybody is excited. It does tend to bump up your experience just a little bit. That's not how I played it though. The day before I jet-setted off to Tokyo, I called in a little favour. It was just me in a quiet room with a big TV and a PS4 Pro running some Kingdom Hearts 3 previews. How did my experience stack up against the others? Let's find out. So just before we start, I wasn't allowed to record my gameplay, and what you're seeing on screen is B-roll provided by Square. Also, this isn't going to be a terribly long video. I'm not going to pretend I can infer exactly what the game as a whole is going to be like based on a couple of hours worth of preview builds, but I do want to talk about some of the things that stuck out to me, both good and bad. Let's start with the most glaringly obvious good. The game looks gorgeous. No, it isn't the most technologically advanced game out there in terms of graphics, but the characters, props, and the worlds are all beautifully vibrant and the art style absolutely nails it. The attention to detail in the design department is great too. When you first wind up in the Toy Story world, you'll quickly notice you've all been turned into toys, and if you were a Toy Story fan as a kid, or even now, you will find exploring Andy's room as a scaled down toy pretty damn wonderful. But that segues into one of my biggest gripes with the experience. A big mechanic that they focused on in multiple different previews was wall running, being able to run up vertical surfaces, but its implementation honestly feels like a mechanic stuck in the PS2 era. For a start, you can only run on walls or things that the game tells you can run on, and for all the attention to detail these worlds have, there is nothing from an artistry or world building point of view that distinguishes a surface you can run on and a surface you can't. There isn't like a rough textured rock face amongst smooth slopes or anything like that. You'll just see big flashing arrows on the walls that you can run on. Then there is the actual running itself. You don't get to free run up the surface. Hell, you can't even run diagonally. You can only move in one direction at a time. Straight up, left, right, or straight down. It's like playing vertical Pac-Man without any delicious circles to eat. Thankfully though, combat feels better than ever. I never felt like I was just going through the motions, repeating the same attacks over and over. There was a great deal of variety in your average encounter. Now, the nature of the previews means there was no tutorial and you didn't begin from the start of the game in any of them. Character menus and such were also not available. That's a lot of info that I didn't have, so you were essentially thrown into fight sequences and taking a lot of guesses, but it did feel like you could switch up quite a lot on the fly, altering combos and special abilities, and the big finisher type moves based on theme park rides were simply a joy to execute. You can find yourself jumping inside teacups to slide around the battlefield crushing everything in your path, or you could take a ride on the Pirates of the Caribbean swinging ship and use it as a big wrecking ball. In one of the boss fights I even summoned a massive spectral roller coaster to lay waste to the big baddie. There was also a sequence that had you take control of big toy robots and duke it out with other robots. This completely changed the combat system and gave you a handful of attacks you could perform while in the robot. It was like being in a mech, and I thought it was a really awesome way to add variety and flavour. If the previews are anything to go by, we could be looking at a lot of different world-specific mechanics, which could go a long way to making boss encounters feel truly unique. Rather than just fighting a slightly stronger guy, you engage the baddie on his own turf. I didn't get to see many baddies, but I did see a whole lot of Disney characters. Their inclusion this time seems to be heavily weighted in their favour. During cutscenes in the Toy Story world, you'd often see almost the entire recognisable cast from the movies, and with the exception of Woody, who is most likely being voiced by Tom Hanks' brother Jim Hanks rather than Tom himself, the original voice actors all appeared to reprise their roles. Disney stories commanding most of the attention front and center in Kingdom Hearts 3 make sense. Square want to sell this game to people who have never played Kingdom Hearts before. They're releasing it on the Xbox platform for the first time ever. Even if you haven't played any of the others and can't follow the meta story or the story in between worlds, you should easily be able to follow each world's individual story arc, and fans of Disney in particular should enjoy a bulk of what this game has to offer. To wrap this up, my experience was overall positive. I'm excited to play the full game come January, and I'm sure it will be a great game, but it did make me think long and hard about a statement that got thrown around a lot in preview articles earlier in the year, namely that it will be worth the wait. Now, I'm sure it will be worth the wait for die-hard Kingdom Hearts fans, but what I played certainly didn't feel like a game that has been in development for 6 years. Yes, they changed engines about a year into development, and Disney, being the overlords that they are, were unlikely to have been helping the project move along at a speedy pace, but that doesn't erase the fact that it has been in some form of development for 6 years. You would normally expect a game with such a long development time to be an evolution, to bring something to the table that changes the landscape of the series or even the genre as a whole, but that's not what Kingdom Hearts 3 does, at least not in what I played, and the recent announcement that it will have about 80 hours of gameplay means that the size and scope certainly isn't out of the ordinary for games in the genre, or indeed the Kingdom Hearts series either. It will be a great game. It will be some people's game of the year in 2019. I'm going to enjoy it, you're going to enjoy it, but I can't shake the feeling that this game should have been delivered 2 years earlier than its eventual release next January. It feels like a direct sequel to Kingdom Hearts 2 that came out a couple of years after that one, not like a sequel 10 years in the future. Thanks for liking, subscribing and sharing, and I'll see you all soon.